What if Padme got to Anakin before he could burn on Mustafar? That's what we're going to go over today, but before we do, it's lightsaber giveaway day. Thank you to everyone who entered, but let's move on over to this screen, and let's spin the wheel. Let's find out who our two winners are. If you do win, ownasaber.com will be in contact with you via the email you provided. But let's just jump right into it and find our two winners for this one. It's my first lightsaber giveaway, and my first ever winner is going to be Matt Skripka. Congrats, you were our first winner. Watch out for an email coming in from Ownasaber. Huge shout out. Alright, let's find winner number 2. Thanks to everyone who joined. Let's see if your name gets the lucky pull. It's just a spin. Let's see. We got Jacoby Roberts. You are our second winner. Once again, Ownasaber will be in contact. Alright, huge shout out everybody who joined. And let's get into today's video. Padme Amidala woke up on the Mustafar landing platform, remembering everything that had just happened. Anakin was gone. No, not gone. He was lost. There is still good in him. She was sure of it. But Padme looked around, noticing that Anakin and Obi-Wan were both not here anymore. And Padme ran through the area, through the control building, seeing the destruction inside for herself. The bodies of the Separatist leaders were spread throughout the control room, mercilessly destroyed. Lightsaber cuts all over the room. All the controls were destroyed. And Padme kept running through the room, coming upon a balcony eventually that overlooked the lava river. In the distance, floating down the river, two warriors wielding blue lightsabers. The sound of lightsaber strikes and yelling could be heard faintly in the distance, and Padme looked around, eventually seeing a tunnel that led down the river, and so she took it, pushing away any sadness and fear as she was running through the tunnel, down the river, trying to get to Anakin and Obi-Wan. She ran as fast as she could while carrying her children, and eventually she emerged outside of the tunnel, hearing yelling from both warriors. Padme ran up a set of stairs, and in the near distance, she watched as Anakin yelled, "You underestimate my power," and flipped into the air. Padme knew everything Anakin had done. The massacre of the Jedi Temple, countless lies, killing the Separatist leaders, joining the dark side. And yet, despite it all, she knew that not even he deserved this fate. Anakin was cut down by Obi-Wan, and he slid down towards the lava, both legs gone, his one non-robotic arm gone, and Padme acted, yelling out, "No!" and running down towards the lava beds. She jumped down to Obi-Wan's level, where he let out a surprised gasp, telling Padme not to do it. Anakin was too far gone, and if she tries to go to him, she too could die. But Padme was not listening. The man she loved was broken, destroyed, hurt. Anakin needs her. And so she slid down the rocky terrain, feeling the hot coals burn into her shoes, until finally she reached Anakin. Padme tried to drag him up, but it was no use. The terrain was far too loose, so she looked up at Obi-Wan, begging for help, and Obi-Wan tried to look away. The fire was threatening to engulf Anakin, to burn him alive, but as of now he was still not burned, only missing limbs. And Padme yelled out, "What would Qui-Gon do?" To Padme, Qui-Gon was the Jedi that she knew Anakin always admired, and missed more than anyone else. Anakin often talked about how Obi-Wan should be more like Qui-Gon, and this clearly got to Obi-Wan as he closed his eyes, then reached out and began lifting both Anakin and Padme with the Force. Obi-Wan put them safely down behind him, and Anakin, from the pain from the hot ground and the loss of limbs, passed out, defeated. Obi-Wan carried Anakin aboard the ship as Padme got it ready to fly, and then they were off to meet Bail Organa at Polis Massa, as Padme could feel she would be ready to give birth any time now. And soon after they left Mustafar, a new ship would arrive, the shuttle of Emperor Palpatine. The Sith Lord looked around, going to the lava river, and he could not find Lord Vader. Palpatine could feel Vader in the Force, but his presence was getting further away. And it was not on Mustafar. He was not dead either, and so Palpatine determined that he was captured or turned back to the light by Kenobi and Padme. How predictable, the Sith Lord thought to himself. Skywalker did what was required of him, destroy the Jedi Order, and now he could be disposed of for failing. Sidious got back on his ship and sent a message to his guards on Coruscant. It was time for his new contingency idea. They had to find the dead body of Jedi Master Mace Windu and ready it for an operation. Days later, on Polis Massa, Anakin Skywalker was awake in a room by himself. He was suspended in the air, floating in a small ray shield prison, just like the one Obi-Wan was kept in on Geonosis by Dooku. Anakin floated here, eyes closed, meditating on the Force, trying to contain himself. He felt his legs and arms, all of them now rebuilt with similar parts to those of General Grievous, just more human-like, but they felt so unnatural. He was part robot, and for days he was kept alone in here, without visits from anyone he actually knew, just guards of the medical facility giving him his basic necessities. Anakin had actually calmed himself quite a bit from Mustafar, and was now waiting to talk to Obi-Wan and Padme, so he could tell them that Padme was going to die in childbirth, unless they get help, unless he can help. He was growing impatient, but finally the door opened. It was Padme, and she was carrying children. This wasn't possible. Anakin's dreams were never wrong, and yet Padme stood in front of Anakin now with twins. Her children, his children, their children, alive and well, just like Padme. Anakin's eyes welled up with tears. He did everything, all of the murders, the atrocities. He did them all to save Padme. And yet, here she stood. Padme was able to live through the birth, knowing Anakin was still alive. And Anakin realized in this moment that he was played by Palpatine. Palpatine spent decades bringing Anakin to his side to do his dirty work, and Anakin fell for all of it. He wanted to rip apart everything in this room, to tear it to the ground in anger, but Padme's soft voice calmed him. She said, "Anakin, don't let him win. Come back to us." And Anakin calmed himself, then asked Padme if he could be released. After some time, Obi-Wan and Yoda agreed, and so Anakin was released. The two Jedi Masters watched as Anakin hobbled out of the room, grabbing the wall to keep himself steady. As of right now, he was no threat. He could barely walk. It was hard getting used to one new arm after the fight with Dooku. Now another new arm, plus 2 new legs. Anakin was in for a challenge. Right now, he was weak. It would take time, training, but Anakin knew he could return to his full strength in time. He could feel Obi-Wan and Yoda feeling tense around him, and so Anakin tried his best to apologize, knowing now that his turn to the dark side was for no reason. His children were alive, Padme was alive, and Emperor Palpatine ruled the galaxy because of Anakin Skywalker. So Anakin said he would do whatever he could to end his reign, bring democracy back, kill Darth Sidious for what he has done. And on Coruscant, Darth Sidious stood in his Sith lair, hidden away in the industrial sector, as Jedi Master Mace Windu lay dead on the table in front of him. Sidious was going to try and bring him back to life, a power that Plagueis learned, but Sidious never truly mastered. But he would try to bring Windu back to life using the dark side, and with this power, dark transfer, Windu would be reawakened, but the light inside of him would be vanquished. He needed someone to draw out Skywalker, and who better than the Jedi Anakin hated most? So Sidious began the ritual, and lightning surrounded his hands, moving through his body, and then shooting into Windu's body. Sidious focused his energy, the dark side, his midichlorians into Windu, and the Jedi Master soon opened his eyes. But this was not the same Windu, not even close. His eyes were an evil yellow, and the light was gone, replaced by darkness. He was brought back to life using the dark side, and now only the dark emotions remained. And Windu sat up, with one thought on his mind: revenge on Anakin Skywalker. Sidious laughed loudly, echoing around the room. Windu was gone, replaced by the dark side, and he was now simply a puppet of the dark side. Sidious would use him to destroy Skywalker, anyone else who stands in his way. And for around a month from here, the Polis Massa facilities would become the temporary home of Anakin, Padme, Obi-Wan, Yoda, and the children. There would be a fake funeral for Padme, Bail would return to the Senate, but they trained and waited, planned on their next steps on Polis Massa. The people of this planet were sympathizers to the Republic, not the Empire, so they kept it a secret that they were harboring enemies of the Empire. Anakin trained with his new limbs, trying to get used to them, while also trying to gain back the trust of Obi-Wan and Yoda. The Jedi Masters knew they would need Anakin to defeat the Sith, but Anakin committed truly unforgivable acts, and he could never be forgiven. But he could still do what was right, and so Anakin trained, and he helped Padme with the children, but he could feel something wrong in the Force. He wasn't sleeping well. He was having the same recurring dream. Every night, he saw himself cut down Mace Windu, and then he saw Windu open his eyes, and then the dream ended. Every night, Anakin thought it was just guilt about the first Jedi he killed, thinking his dreams were wrong last time about Padme. Windu could not be alive. But on Coruscant, Windu was alive, hunting Anakin. Since his revival, Windu had one goal on his mind: revenge. And this revived Windu still retained all of the memories of the Jedi Windu, but he was basically a new person otherwise. There was no light side within him, only hatred, anger, suffering. He was the dark side, built from the dark side, and he spent this month working alone, looking for Anakin, trying to spy on anyone who could be a Jedi sympathizer, and one day he snuck aboard the ship of Bail Organa, hacking into his flight records. Bail had records of mostly Coruscant and Alderaan, going back and forth between home and the capital of the galaxy. But one place on these records stuck out more than any: Polis Massa, a medical facility on an asteroid field. If Anakin was injured after Mustafar, it made sense that he would be taken to a remote facility. And Bail was a known Jedi sympathizer during the Clone Wars, and so Mace Windu got into an Imperial ship, punching in the coordinates for Polis Massa, alerting Emperor Palpatine of his discovery. And so Windu took off, with Sidious saying he would wait for Windu to come back with the Jedi dead. But for Sidious, this was not true. It was clear that this experiment with Windu would not last forever. He was decaying. His dead body could only handle the dark side revival for so long, and though the dark side did fuel him enough for a fight, he only had a bit longer. And so Sidious would use Windu as a distraction, then destroy the Polis Massa facility before the Jedi realized that he was the real threat from above. And soon enough, Bail Organa made his way back to his ship, realizing something was off. His chair was tilted different than usual, and the datapad was on. Bail sifted through it and found someone had been tampering with the flight logs. He tried contacting his friends at Polis Massa, but no luck. They were sleeping, or the comms were shut down. Either way, he had to get there immediately, and he had to bring as many capable fighters on his side. Luckily, he'd made some friends in the time since the Republic fell. That same night, Padme and the children slept in one room, while Obi-Wan and Yoda slept in their own rooms. Anakin couldn't sleep, and so he was training, and his training over this month had come along quite well. He was moving much better, and even learned to utilize his new limbs for their extreme physical strength. He truly was feeling like his old self again, and late in the night, Anakin dozed off in the training room. As he slept, Anakin once again fell into the same dream. He cut down Windu, and then he saw Windu open his eyes on the Coruscant ground. But today, the dream continued, and Anakin realized the Force was trying to tell him something, and Anakin watched as Windu stood in front of a burning facility as screams rang out from all around. And the closer Anakin looked inside of this dream, he realized it was this facility. Anakin's eyes jolted open, and he realized his dreams were not of guilt, but they were a warning, and they had to be real. Anakin stood up, sprinting through the facility. He could feel Windu in the Force now. He was alive, and he was here. But he felt different. Anakin sprinted through the halls until he finally reached Padme's room. He swung the door open to see Mace Windu, purple lightsaber ignited, and he began to swing down at Padme and the children. But now Anakin screamed "No!" and unleashed a giant force push, slamming Windu against the far wall. Anakin ran up to Padme and ushered her out of the room with the children, and once she was gone, Anakin turned back to Windu. The former Jedi Master was standing back up, purple lightsaber in hand, and Anakin looked into his eyes. They were a deep yellow. Windu had a cracked smile as he looked at Anakin. This was not the Jedi Master. At least not fully, and Anakin ignited his own lightsaber. This was a fight years in the making. Windu used the Force to crush the door behind them, making sure they would not be disturbed. And the two charged at each other. Anakin and Mace engaged in a hateful battle. The duel intensified as they leapt, spun through the air, lightsabers creating trails of light in the dark room. Anakin's frustration and confusion fueled his strikes, while Windu seemed almost serene in his evil. Each clash sent shockwaves through the Force, and eventually both Yoda and Obi-Wan awoke from the disturbance. As the duel progressed, Mace used his dark side anger, unleashing torrents of lightning from his fingers. Anakin struggled to defend against the onslaught, his skill and power tested to their limits with his new limbs. The ground beneath them cracked and crumbled under the pressure of the duel, and Windu jumped through the lightning, knocking Anakin off his feet. Anakin struggled to get back up, unsure of how to beat Windu, so far gone in the dark side, and something clicked. This was like Obi-Wan fighting Anakin, but he was in Obi-Wan's spot this time. If he could just unbalance Windu, make him become too arrogant, too angry, then an opportunity to end this could arise. And so Anakin got back up and jumped into the battle, his strikes more precise, his movements more fluid. He began talking, taunting Windu, and the Force surged through him, and he was able to turn the tide of the battle. With a powerful push, Anakin sent Windu hurling backwards against the wall once more, momentarily disarming him. But Mace wasn't one to be defeated easily. Drawing upon the dark side, he rose to his feet, but suddenly the door to the room was thrown at extreme speed, cutting through Windu, and he gasped, then toppled over in two halves of himself. Anakin looked to the door to see Yoda. He used the Force to dislodge the door and throw it at Windu, killing him. Yoda approached Anakin, saying this was not Windu. Not really. Instead it was his corpse, infused with the dark side. Sidious was not strong enough in the power of dark transfer to bring Windu back at his full power, but instead merely as a distraction. In that moment, Yoda and Anakin locked eyes. A distraction, and they sprinted out of the room to find Obi-Wan looking to the sky. Obi-Wan turned and said they had to go immediately. A Star Destroyer just emerged from hyperspace, but not a moment later, new ships emerged, the Tantive 4, flown by Bail, and a small group of other ships. Obi-Wan called up to Bail, and he told Obi-Wan that they were here to help. Bail made friends with some clone troopers, outcasted by the Empire, and they were flying with Bail against the Star Destroyer. And inside of the Star Destroyer, Darth Sidious ordered his troops to fire at the base. But the cannons to the destroyer were just blown away. They weren't expecting any resistance, and so Sidious ordered the TIE fighter pilots to get into the air, destroy the enemies. On Polis Massa, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Yoda boarded a shuttle, taking off for the Star Destroyer. The cannons were gone, and now they had an opportunity to kill Sidious. The three Jedi would land in the now empty hangar and make their way through the destroyer, killing anyone who stood in their way. And they continued on, finally reaching the bridge where Sidious stood, watching the battle in space. Then, without talking, he ignited his crimson saber, saying he would do this himself. The room was bathed in the crimson glow of Sidious's lightsaber, and it was a nice contrast to the blue and green blades now ignited by the Jedi. Obi-Wan's defensive stance, Anakin's aggressive strikes, and Yoda's acrobatic maneuvers created a sudden clash of all of these sabers, each Jedi attacking with a unique style that complements the others. The bridge's viewports revealed the chaotic backdrop of a space battle, but within this space, the clash between Jedi and Sith took center stage. Sidious moved with the darkness, his cloak swirling as he parried and countered the onslaught of lightsaber strikes. Anakin and Obi-Wan fought in tandem, their connection as master and apprentice evident. Their relationship was broken, but in battle they were still the greatest duo in the Jedi Order. Anakin's power, Obi-Wan's precision, it created a chaos, and they drew strength from Sidious, fighting him on, forcing him to back up, as Yoda jumped in challenging the Sith Lord, who struggled to anticipate the movements of the Grand Master. The bridge became a battleground, sabers clashing together. If it were just one Jedi, perhaps even two, Sidious would have an advantage, but all three? Things were not in his favor. In a moment of perfect opportunity, the three Jedi disarmed Sidious, forcing him to his knees. And Anakin put his lightsaber to Sidious's face, saying that he would die for all the pain that he caused him and the Jedi. Sidious lost, and he knew it, so he yelled that all of them would die, reaching out and blasting the window with lightning. The now open air tried to suck all of them into the void of space, but Anakin cut off Sidious's hand to stop the lightning, while Obi-Wan and Yoda grabbed the Sith Lord with the Force, throwing him out of the window. The Sith Lord screamed in anger as he was pulled into space, dying, and the emergency window locks finally secured themselves. The Jedi were alive. In a matter of weeks, Bail Organa and the Jedi returned to Coruscant with the truth. Anakin Skywalker stood in a center pod with the others, detailing what happened, how Sidious brought him the truth, that he was controlling both sides, and how he manipulated Anakin into doing his dirty work. Anakin would not be arrested, as he was simply following orders of the leader, but as the galaxy returned to a republic, Anakin was not looked upon kindly by anyone, except for his wife and children. And once the galaxy returned to peace with Bail Organa as Chancellor, Anakin, Padme, and the kids took off to a distant planet, Takodana, full of trees, forests, and people who were just doing their own thing. They would live out their lives happy, once Anakin finally regained the trust of Padme and the Jedi. He knew he was wrong. He committed these acts under the influence of the Sith, but eventually Vader was killed for good, and Anakin was alive, and the Jedi would rebuild under Yoda and Kenobi for years to come. And folks, that's our story for today. What'd you think of it? Please let me know. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you won the lightsaber giveaway, congrats. Email should be in a couple days, if not less. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.